I've spent roughly, I don't know, 12 hours yesterday playing this game. And we're going to be jumping back in for day 2 of Marathon. And so I would say this is a very rough first impression of my experience with Marathon. I have not played anything between last year's alpha and what we have played here at this very moment in the server slam. So visually, right out the gates, the game is way, way better looking. Last year during the alpha, I think all of us shared the same opinion that the game felt just unpolished, unfinished. I know like the reasoning was like the art style. I think that was, but it just didn't resonate. You know what I mean? Even if you said that was the art style, it was not a good art style. It was not a good creative direction. Where they have gone visually with things now, at least in regards to the areas, the maps, exteriors, it's way, way better. Way better. Now, my experience day 1, we kind of hit the ground running. We've pretty much loaded out every single time with our best stuff. And one complaint that I've seen from a lot of people, and it's a very valid complaint, is they are not running into enough PvP engagements. And I've seen some of the reasonings behind it. Some people have posted essentially saying that right now inexperienced players don't know where the PvP hotspots are. But Bungie themselves even came out and said that a huge reason why people are not seeing as much on the PvP side is because the PvE enemies are killing people before those people can run into other people. And I have not played solo. So this weekend, we're going to be jumping in. We're going to play with Rook, and we're primarily going to play solo getting into the weekend. And I want to see what that experience is like. I will say that the PvE enemies are very difficult because it's not like, you get downed and then the PvE enemy leaves you alone. No, they down you and then they chase you down and then they suck you off and you die. You know what I mean? Like there's just like nothing you could do about it. Like even with a group, even with Frost and Benny right there next to me, PvE enemies were shitting on us. You know what I mean? Like to the point, I'd say to the point where I don't even leave my teammate's side. Like other games, like you'll kind of like branch off. You're like, I'll go check out this room. Oh, let me go walk over here. Let me go look over. No, at least not yet. Maybe when you get kitted out, maybe. In this game, no. If you look around the corner, you're like, oh, there's an ad right there. Be prepared because Big Dick is probably waiting behind him. That's the big purple shielded fucker that's going to get ready to you and your entire squad. And you might be able to 1v1 them, but the moment they get really aggressive and they push you and they immediately just, you know what I mean? Especially when they hit you with the melee, it's a good chance you're dead. So what I'm really trying to say is that the PvE enemies in this game are very aggressive. They're very reactive, almost jarringly so, because they go like the way they move. I swear there's been so many times I've called out UESC enemies and thought to myself that they were players because the way they move looks like a player. And so I just would suggest for all players, solo or teams, is to treat all PvE enemies like you would with the hardest team you've gone up against. Like go out. If you see your teammate that's like shooting a couple PvE ads, don't be like, oh, he's got that. No, don't be a dick. Help him. He needs help. Whether he's saying on the comms he needs help or not, he will need help. Now, having a dangerous role like that is by design. Bungie wanted this world to feel dangerous, and so they've accomplished that. The world feels dangerous. Now, whether there's enough variability in the world, that remains to be seen. And that's where the other maps are going to come into play. And what I mean by that is you don't really have a lot of different enemy types. They're all UESC enemies, at least on these first 2 maps. I know there's supposed to be stuff beyond this. We'll have the other maps. This is just a server slam. And a lot of the complaints I've seen with, Marathon server slam is something I even saw during Arc Raiders server slam. If y'all remember, we just had the single map there for Arc Raiders, and a lot of people got kind of bored, almost like burnt out with the server slam there for Arc Raiders. And so I wouldn't be surprised if a similar thing happened here with Marathon, but then the full game comes out. It'll come out next week, right? Let's talk time to kill. I didn't actually think this was going to be a thing we would even discuss too much. I thought it was going to be relatively the same to what it was last year during the alpha. Time to kill in this game is very fast. They sped things up. Now, granted, we have, gray, green, and at best blue shields. I think Frost had a purple shield, but I didn't think TTK was going to shift too much from the alpha, but it's definitely shifted, guys. The time to kill is fast. And there are pros and cons to that. Con number 1, if you're out there and you're like, I'm just going to go grab that one little item out there or that one little bag out there or check that one loot source. and someone shoots you while you're looting, if they just have even slightly good aim, you dead, man. I mean, unless you got a means of going, I mean, maybe invisible, maybe a destroyer shield. But if you're like out in the open for even a second and you think you're gonna loot that source and someone lights you up, TTK is fast enough, they will shred you. But there's also a pro to that. If you're the last living member on your team, Frostbolt had a 1v3 yesterday. It was such a good 1v3. He was the last person on the team alive, and he was able to 1v3. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't have done it with a lengthier time to kill, but being a shorter time to kill allowed him to get those easy picks, right? With that TTK value in mind, you do have the potential to take out an entire squad. Granted, things are going to change whenever people get better loot, of course, right? And especially when we get into like gold gear and whatnot. So, but the time to kill is noticeably faster. Sweet spot for me, at least in the Destiny space, has always been around like that 0.8 second time mark. This is faster than that, or at least feels faster than that. So now, gunplay. A lot of the gunplay you experience in Marathon is going to feel very familiar to a Destiny player. When I say familiar, I'm talking one-to-one. The BXR, let me pull it up. This weapon, this BR-33 volley rifle, brother, that is Redrix. That is BXR. I cannot express just how one-to-one this weapon is to Destiny. It is almost identical. And honestly, shoots just as good, if not better, here in Marathon. Bungie likes pulse rifles. Bungie also likes shotguns. Shotguns are very strong in this game, dude. Like, stupid strong. Even with high shields, someone can walk around the corner and like purple shields and will drop you with this shotgun right here. It just literally two-tap. Bam, bam. So Bungie has always liked shotgun. Kind of reminds me of like, you know, Destiny 1 or even like Destiny 2 back when we had like Fellwinter and it was meta and it was killing people at 9.5, 10 meters. Same concept here. They've made shotguns very, very strong. They did say they wanted the guns to feel familiar. Yeah. So complaint number one, though, that I've seen going around is not enough PvP engagements. The comments made on Bungie on that is that people are just getting shredded by PvE enemies. Does that mean you go in there and you nerf PvE enemies? No, I don't think you do that either. Maybe at best you add an extra team or something like that to the map if you're looking to get PvP engagements. I don't know what the matchmaking is like in this game. I don't know if there's like a gear-based matchmaking or not. I did notice that when we went in fully kitted with really good stuff, we tend to run into players that were pretty good. With engagements being spaced out the way it is, though, Marathon kind of lulls you into, I would say, like into bad habits, if you will. Like you kind of get used to, like you see a rook, and I know everybody's going to hate that we say this, but we killed every rook. Not a single rook did we not. Every rook we saw, we killed. They're loot pinatas. They're the solo scavenger player. And if you kill one, they normally got good stuff. There was one rook we thought about sparing, but Frostbolt had already killed him. And when we went to go look, he had like purple weapons. He had like blue backpacks. I mean, the man was loaded, dude. I mean, loaded. So from that point on, we're going to kill I'm going to kill every rook. You know what I mean? So the rooks are doing what they're supposed to do. They're scavenging quite effectively. And so that every time I see a rook, I'm going to kill. But you get lulled into running into rooks. Like you'll get lulled into a rook. You get lulled into like maybe a low skilled team. And so like the engagements will go from like going up against people that obviously it's a new game, of course, but going against people that obviously aren't wanting to PvP or don't know how to PvP well, to suddenly, oh shit, we're in the fight of our lives. We're up against fucking high elo, double, triple diamond. You know what I mean? And like shit hits the fan, and it hits the fan so fast. There's no time for recovery. There's not like all right, whoa, we're in this situation right now. Let me position myself. Let me pull out some. No, you're already dead. You're dead. And you don't really know until one of your teammates just got immediately melted. You know what I'm saying? And so what I mean by that, in order to effectively play Marathon, you have to treat every engagement like you were up against the best players in the world. It's a bit stressful. Even that rook, you need to treat it. When I say treat it, I notice my team doesn't make appropriate call-outs when they're up against, they see a rook or they see, maybe it's a team of 2, but they're not really that stressed about it. You got to treat everything like you're up against the best team of 3 of your life. Because the moment you let your guard down, someone's going to get you and they're going to take your shit, An aspect that I do like is that you do always have a chance of coming back, Even if your teammate gets fully knocked, if you rat long enough, you can make your way back and you can get that res. You know what I mean? As a triage, which is what I played all day yesterday, I was able to come back a couple times and get my teammates up. I know what Bungie's trying to do with their shells, right? What they're really wanting to do is, like, you know, once they introduce Thief, of course, it's like they want tough decisions to happen. You know, they want you to decide what the best team synergy is going to be for you and your squad. This may even change map to map. What we found, recon, very, very good. Almost a must. Triage, almost a must. And then your third is just whatever you want, really. We'll see how that shakes out in the full game. With that being said, I think some players or some shells are going to just be better for solo. Like, for instance, I would assume Assassin is probably going to be the most used solo shell out there. And then, of course, when you're talking teams of 3, that's when you're going to start to see the team synergies. The only unfortunate part I found, and it was because we didn't really have too many PvP engagements where we got to, like, really flex all of our abilities, because things happen so fast. A lot of the gunfights are, well, decided just with your guns right there on the spot. You know what I mean? There was only like a handful of times, I would say yesterday, where I felt like our team synergies really came together to have, like, you know, that pivotal turning moment where we turned it on another team. There was a moment yesterday where the squad got dropped. We were trying to take out a gold shield boss, and I backed up. Luckily I was the last one still alive, and I used my triage ult and I res both Frost and Benny up, and that was a really cool moment. And we were able to jump back in that fight, wipe the team. It was hectic, it was crazy. But I think where Arc Raiders is compared here, Arc Raiders, the fights in those games last much longer, time to kill and whatnot, but it's also third person. When you pull up an Arc Raider stream, you're looking at a team of 3 versus a team of 3 versus potentially another team of 3. Everybody's like hanging around the walls, around the corners. You know what I mean? So, like, you have this moment there where I think as a viewer, you can kind of dissect or at least interpret what's happening in front of you, right? Marathon doesn't really offer that, at least, you know, to the casual player, because things just happen faster. They just happen a lot faster. So some of you have even said, like, the viewing experience wasn't that fun to you. I think that may be part of it, because gunfights can just be concluded so fast, right? Now, the experience we're having today with Marathon is in its base form, right? And I'm not even talking about the game being fully out. I'm talking about me running around with green implants, green cores, at best some blues, right? How is this going to change when I'm fully kitted in golds? Or at least purples? How are things going to change when I have gold cores and gold implants, as we've seen the different, you know, synergies and build crafting elements on that front? That's where I think the game could scale up in a great way, both from a player's perspective, but also from a viewing perspective. At the same time, with those gold implants, or in this case, gold weapons, I would assume our lethality is only going to increase. So even with gold shields, time to kill may not change all that much. It may still be just as fast. You know what I mean? Because, like, the efficacy of your weapons are only going to increase. So I wouldn't see a big departure from the TTK that you're seeing here right now. That's how Tarkov is as well. Yeah. Tarkov is very fast. I mean, I've only played Tarkov once, but Tarkov is, I don't know. I didn't even know, like, sometimes with Tarkov, I didn't even know I was dead until I was dead. You know what I mean? It was just like that fast. I heard the UI is bad. Well, here's the thing with the UI. There's just too much of the same looking stuff. Like, for instance, right here, these different enhanced chip mods. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of items. Like, you could tell that that's a Destroyer Shell Deluxe Core, right? But, like, it's a bit samey, right? And I get the frustration with it. A lot of people are like, what does this item do? What is this item? I'm sure over time, like, we'll be able to color coordinate, and to the naked eye, we'll immediately know, you know, what each of these items are. But I get the complaints on the UI side, right? I understand where you guys are coming from on that. And then as far as, like, in-game UI though, like actually playing, I'm not really bothered by it. I think if you're, like, looking for immersion, maybe Bungie should add a setting or something like that, where as soon as your stuff is no longer on cooldown, maybe your UI hides itself. Like, if you're looking for that immersion, right? And I got to give it to Arc Raiders. I think Arc Raiders has really nailed immersion. So it's just maybe on Marathon side right here, have a hybrid UI system, if you will. One thing I will mention, I noticed people talking about menus, and I gotta agree with you guys. As someone who plays Destiny, it ain't even just the portal. All right. It's the triumphs. It's the titles. Bungie they love menus, dude. I mean, they will menu it up, brother. They will put menus within menus, you know? And I understand, you know, some of the views here on all of the different menus, or I guess in some cases menu fatigue. It's not that it's overly complicated. Like when you go over to factions, none of this is overly complicated. If anything, it's incredibly simple. It's just it's a menu though. You know, it's a menu. You got to go through your codex and get gear and cosmetics. Here's the thing. This is kind of a Destiny problem, you guys, but I'm gonna bring it up anyways. I know we're supposed to do factions to increase vault space. All right. But your man's already out of vault space, dude. I was max on vault space within the first 2 hours of playing yesterday. And I'm just going to throw it out here, Bungie. You may want, look at this. Look, this is my postmaster right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe increase the base vault space just a little bit. That's a you problem? Oh my God. I personally don't think we have enough vault space. You know, this is my opinion, which is the right opinion. And you fuckers that are saying it's a hoarding problem, all that tells me is you got shit on and you lost your loot. That's all that's telling me right now. Anyways, I would suggest upping the vault space at least a little bit. You know what I mean? Just at least a little bit. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention is this. Some of you are looking at kind of sentiment online, which is completely fine. And I feel like a lot of you are like trying to like grab onto an opinion. You're like, well, what's the opinion? What's the consensus here? The game is free right now. It's a server slam. It's not the full game. Just try it out for yourself. That's just my suggestion on that one. Try it out for yourself. Kind of, you know, don't force it. Just see where your experience, how that shakes out, and yeah, kind of formulate your own thoughts on it. You know, everybody. I'm not saying that the game isn't receiving unwarranted hate. You know, there are definitely aspects that need to be improved, but it's completely free this weekend, and give it a go. See how it goes. I actually remember watching Arc Raiders, and there was a lot of buzz even during the server slam, but there was also some complaints because people were just getting kind of bored just playing on the same map over and over. But if you remember Arc Raiders, the game when it came out, it was hype, but then it just continued to climb. So the most important thing for me with Marathon is not necessarily what the highest peak concurrent player is going to be. It's, is there going to be retention? Is there going to be a steady climb, if any climb at all, or just a hold, if you will? You know what I mean? That's going to tell the full story. We'll see what the numbers look like going into the weekend. But I think a lot of this is going to rest on overall progression. What's the in-game aspect of your shells once you're fully kitted, and then what's the other two maps? How are they going to play? I think right now we're essentially having the same experience we had last year with the Alpha, but with, of course, a much more upgraded paint job with the visuals, which is appreciated, a faster time to kill, and of course the rook shells being thrown in there. But yeah, man, I mean, a lot of it kind of rests on what those other two maps bring to the table. I pray that it stays as hardcore as it is. Let it be sweaty, please. Every engagement without killer instincts is scary. I think that is that's exactly what Bungie is targeting here. We'll see if it resonates in the long run. Think about who Joe Ziegler is. His background is Valorant, right? And so they're trying to make this competitive extraction shooter. We'll see if it plays out well. Yeah, I will say this on the topic of being a competitive extraction shooter. It's a bold strategy because it's already a niche genre to begin with, and then the competitive aspect on top of it. At the same time, I can see myself playing many hours to get high-end loot, to have those super high stress moments where things get very sweaty. And I'm looking forward to those. It's gonna suck when you lose all your shit, but Bungie's answer to losing all of your shit is, as you upgrade these factions, you're just eventually gonna be able to buy not everything, but a lot of everything. Look at me, like you got gold mods, you know what I mean? This implant, you got purples here, you got other golds here. Like the idea is, you're going to upgrade your factions enough where even if you do lose everything, you're almost going to be able to kind of like jump back in, man. If you got the money, you're going to be able to really just jump back in and at least be able to compete. I'm really curious about the rank system that Bungie is supposed to be bringing, because that's going to require a gear ante. And I don't even know what that amount is going to look like, and if that's going to change rank to rank or not. Most of those golds, though, aren't for credits. You'll trade gold mats for them. Gotcha. I would say like probably a week from now or a week after launch, I want to really sit down and like just have a one-to-one comparison to Arc Raiders. And some of you are going to say, well, that's unfair. But they're both extraction shooters. And I think there are some aspects that Marathon really hits. But I also think Arc Raiders really, really nailed some things that I hope in the later maps Marathon can nail. I have not come across a gold drop yet. Maybe you've come across a gold drop, but something that I like really found appealing in Arc Raiders is when a gold item dropped on me in that game. Oh my God, dude, it's like just a dopamine explosion, dude. You know what I mean? Like the sound cue and stuff like that. When that shit would highlight and pop up, it was like, whoa! Even if it wasn't even something you wanted, you were like, whoa! Or even a purple, right? We'll see if we get any like gold stuff at all during the server slam, but I'm curious to know if there's like that same dopamine explosion, you know? Hey man, that stuff matters, dude. I like looters. I'll play the shit out of some looters just to see some sexy goop, but it's got to drop in the right way. You know what I mean? It can't just, you know, it can't just roll out there. You know what I mean? It's gotta have all the bells and whistles. I could see myself, you know, at least jumping in for seasons inside of Marathon. My question is over the long run, what is going to change season to season? You know, how is this game going to progress? And then the other side of things is I've been hearing for so long now about the mythical raid elements inside of Marathon. All right, I'm game for it. I don't know. I hope it's good, because I think a lot is going to, for me, like if for instance, if we jump in there and it's like, you're going to stand on this plate, you know what I mean? That's the raid elements. You're going to pick up these motes and you're going to dunk them, you know? Not what I'm looking for. You're going to do all of that, and there's going to be someone invis in the corner waiting to take your loot. Probably. Anyways, we'll see, man. We'll see. The one thing I will say, though, is there was a time when I played Destiny and I thought Destiny was shit. And I'm not saying Destiny was always great. Destiny, this is Destiny's life cycle. It's always has moments where it reached greatness. And then, you know, I remember playing the first week of Destiny being just so confused and just like, what is this game trying to be? And it wasn't until Vault of Glass dropped on us that was the aha moment. That was the moment where it was like, oh, that's what this game is. My question for Marathon: is there a Vault of Glass moment? Not disregarding whether we have raid mechanics or what. Is there a moment where people go, oh, that's what this game is trying to be? And not just say, oh, that's what this game is trying to be. Oh, that's what this game is trying to be. I need it. You think they would showcase that before a week before launch? Of course not. No, and they shouldn't. Just like Vault of Glass. You know what I mean? Like that stuff, I think that shit should just be shadow dropped. I don't think you should say anything. Like if there's something that impactful, dude, you roll the base game out and randomly, like the Whisper mission on Io, drop whatever it is you're looking to drop. Because that's part of the experience, is that surprise. So anyways, first impressions of Marathon: solid shooting, great visuals, music is really top notch, time to kill very fast. PvP engagements, not frequent enough, but supposedly people are just getting shit on by PvE ads, and I don't want Bungie to nerf PvE ads. Engagements very, very fast due to time to kill, but at the same time, I don't know how this is going to scale once we are fully kitted. And then a lot of the success of this game is going to depend on really those other two maps, man. You know, how the rest of it plays out. I will say over the next day to 2 days, I'll be playing solo, and we'll jump in and see how that experience is like. And I think I'll be able to really formulate my thoughts. But again, keep in mind, it's just a server slam. Post release of the full game, we'll probably be able to sit down and have a full review. And then at some point, I do want to like do, you know, some comparisons between this and Arc Raiders 1-to-1. You have to look at the competition, man. You have to look at, like, Marathon and Bungie has to look at Arc Raiders. And I think they have, but you got to look at what has worked with other games in your same genre. One of the biggest mistakes, if arguably the biggest mistake, if we look at the looter shooter genre that Anthem made years ago, is they refused to look at their competition. So much so that you weren't even allowed to talk about it in the studios, which is just foolish, man. Absolutely foolish. So after the release, we'll have a full review of Marathon, and then we'll talk about the those comparisons at some point.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.